Most of you? Half of you. Anyway, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Denise, and I'm a kinesiologist. I work with people for holistic medicine for various different ailments. I got into holistic medicine about 18 years ago. I've been practicing for 16 years. It came as a shock to me how I wound up in this field. I used to be a corporate accountant for many, many years, and I had gotten really sick, and I went to every doctor under the sun, and nobody could seem to help me. Everybody misdiagnosed me, gave me medications for things I didn't have, which made everything 10 times worse. So in my absolute desperation, I had gone into a health food store, which was like taboo in my world. You know, I knew nothing about that kind of thing. And lo and behold, she directed me to someone who was a kinesiologist, and I had gone to this woman, and she told me that I had carbon monoxide poisoning. And I was like stunned, shocked, like how could this possibly be? You know, I had gone to every different doctor imaginable, had every different test done, and you know, they couldn't find anything. But later on, I came to the information that you have to specifically be looking and take a specific blood test to find carbon monoxide in the system. So, long story short, she brought me to the best health of my life. Both physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, nutritionally, everything. And I was just really taken by this whole different world that I knew nothing about. And it was kind of freaky. I'll make no bones about it. It was pretty freaky for me, because I was used to going to the doctor, and, them standing in their little white coats and their very pristine office spaces, and here I was in this woman's home, and she was just, moving my arm around and all this other kind of stuff. But that's a long story and really unnecessary for this particular application. But what it taught me was that there's a thing called energy that surrounds each and every one of us. Our bodies are made of energy. I mean, you learn about these things in like the 5th grade, that your bodies are, 95% water, and water is electrical in nature, and all of these things. But, you go through life, you grow up, and that means nothing to anybody, unless you're a scientist, So for most of us, we don't think about how our bodies interact with everything that we come in contact with, whether it's the foods we eat, whether it's the air we breathe, everything, the words that people say to us, everything has energy. It has a vibrational frequency to it. So our bodies are going to respond to that in a positive way or a negative way, one way or the other. So we're constantly with these like little radio waves going out, to everybody and everything. So with that knowledge, I started studying environmental energies and how people's homes can make them sick. Cheryl, you just became aware of that recently. And I do what's called environmental energy transformation. And that is literally taking the energy patterns that are in the home and diverting them, absorbing them, shifting them in some way so that they don't create a negative effect on the human body. So now I was into this whole aspect of, okay, it's not just the energy here, but it's also the energy out here as well. And when I was going to this kinesiologist, and funny enough, she lives right here in Warwick, which is the funniest thing, here I was 18 years ago, and I was living, down quite a ways from here, and she still lives here, which is great. But in any event, it was a whole new world for me, understanding energy. And I think a lot of people go about our daily lives not understanding that concept. And it's really not that important to go into today, really, for what we're talking about. But I want you to know that it exists because it is the base of what we're going to be talking about. When we talk about perspective, which is what this is, positive perspectives, perspective is everything, absolutely everything. Nothing in this world has meaning except for the meaning we give it. And that is the simple truth. Nothing has meaning. I mean, you take any aspect of your life and dissect it, sit and meditate on it, and really it means nothing except what we believe it means. So that's what a perspective is. And your perspective can change based on experiences. Okay? I got this wonderful email yesterday, and I wish I had that darn thing that you had in your store. Remember that projection thing?
Oh, yeah.
Because I could have shown it that way, but I did print it out, and I want to show it to everybody because the timing was impeccable for this particular little thing. So, this is a picture that was drawn by a first grader. And it says, when I grow up, I want to be like Mom. I want to show this to everybody. Sorry, I'm moving out of range. Okay.
Hi, I take mommy's in the center.
That's Mommy.
Okay.
Okay. There it is. Can you see it? Sorry for this interruption.
I got it.
Can you ladies see that? Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Okay. Now, you all have just gotten a perspective on this, right? What our perspective of it is. Okay? Now, I'm not even going to even try to guess what your perspective of that is. I know what mine was when I first saw it. So she handed it in to the teacher, and the teacher graded it, and the child brought it home. The next day, the child returned to school with a note for the teacher. Ironically enough, the teacher's name is Miss Davis. Okay, so it says, Dear Miss Davis, I want to be perfectly clear on my child's homework illustration. I want to show Jen an illustration before. We're talking about perspective and what people's perspective are. This is a picture that was drawn by a first grader for a school project. Okay? So the note that the mother sent says, Dear Miss Davis, I want to be perfectly clear on my child's homework illustration. It is not of me on a dance pole on stage in a strip joint surrounded by male customers with money. I work at Home Depot and had commented to my daughter how much money we made in the recent snowstorm. This drawing is of me selling a shovel. Okay, so now if you look at the picture again, okay, for a first grader, it's pretty darn good. But I know that's not what you guys thought it was. Okay, you can see the snow shovel, right? You get it. All right, so that's perspective. Perspective is whatever we put into it. Whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And we only base our perspective on what we know and what we experience. And when we don't experience something, we base it on what somebody else tells us. And that's probably the worst perspective you can take on. Assuming that you know anything based on someone else's experience of it is downright dangerous. So I would say to all of you, especially those of you who like to gossip, that it's very, very dangerous to sit with your coworkers and everything and listen to these outrageous stories about people. Because unless you have a proper perspective of that person or that situation, that will actually change the energy of you. Okay? Lesson number 1. All right. Now, in looking at this, I think
So if you're watching E! Entertainment at 7 o'clock for an hour every night, you're saying that your the perspectives that you're picking up about these individuals
right, is based on what they're telling you.
Right.
You don't know these people. You don't know anything about them or their lives or anything. But you're absorbing that perspective based on what the media is showing you.
And that's gonna change my energy.
Well, it will, depending on what you do with that. You know, depending on what you do with it. I mean, I know there are people in this room specifically who will watch TV and get angry. It's Deborah. It's Deborah. You know, because she's not liking what she sees. And all of us do that. I mean, she's not alone. I just use her because she's a great example. Because she does it every day. And all I have to do is say one word and you can watch her squirm in her seat right now. Okay? But we take on these perspectives. And it does affect us on one level or another. So the best thing that you can do to be happy, to reduce stress, because I think the advertiser only said that it was about reducing stress, which is not true. Okay, so forgive me if that's all you came for. You can leave now. But in order to reduce stress in your life, one of the best things that you can do is live your own truth. Not somebody else's, but live your own truth. Know what you know based on your own experiences. And that will drastically reduce your levels of stress. Okay? What we're going to be talking about specifically is the law of attraction. Okay? I know a couple of you here are familiar with it. Okay? I'm just going to assume nobody is. All right? This way, we'll start from the beginning. And basically, the law of attraction is a law. It's a law of the universe. It's just like gravity. Okay? Nobody questions gravity. If you jump off the side of the building, you're going down. Okay? The law of attraction works the same exact way. Okay? Except we don't talk about it. A lot of people aren't familiar with it. Okay? The law of attraction says what you put out is what you will get back. Similar to karma. Similar to karma. Everybody knows what karma is, right? Is there anybody here that doesn't know what karma is? Okay, good. The universe is like a giant copy machine. And I mean that literally. What thoughts that you send out, and this is why we were talking about energy earlier, it's that vibrational frequency that goes out, okay? The universe gloms up, makes a giant photocopy of it, and sends it back to you, like a boomerang, okay? Now, I really don't care what your religious preferences are, what your spiritual preferences are. It doesn't matter to me, it doesn't matter to the universe. So, for these purposes, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of faith in God. That's where my belief system is. I don't, question what anybody else's is. So, for me, when I'm thinking about the law of attraction or the universe or whatever, my perception of that is God. I don't care if you want to call him Jehovah, I don't care if you say it's the universe, the source, infinite intelligence, Mother Earth, whatever. Whatever your belief system is, that's where I want you to go with this. Because that's where it's going to be most powerful for you. Okay? If you don't believe in anything outside of yourself, then clearly you must believe in yourself. Because you're all you got. So then take that and this philosophy and apply it to your own willpower, your own being. The energy that you put out solely by yourself, okay? I think that it's pretty safe to say that most people have a belief in something greater than ourselves. Something, whether it be God, the universe, source, however you want to place it. Most people would agree that there are things that happen that are unexplainable, that are miraculous, and we have no concrete definitive thing that we can attach to it, that it just happens. Again, I will say that this is source, universe, God, whatever, okay? Chester, we can just call him Chester. For many years I did, so, and I'll get into that in a moment. But in going into understanding the law of attraction, I was very new to this at one point too. I've been studying the law of attraction for about 12 or 13 years now. And I would never stand up here or even sit on my own sofa and explain it to anybody if I didn't have proof that it works. only because I come from an accounting background. And my job for many, many years was to prove it to the penny. And if I couldn't prove it to the penny, my little boss me here, the little Indian man that stood about this tall, would make me go back and do it 16 times until I got it right. So I spent many years perfecting this and understanding it before I would actually go out and say, hey, do you know about this? So what I'm about to share with you, I will guarantee you that if you apply the principles of the law of attraction, you will reap the benefits of it. It's that simple. If you don't do it, you won't. It's that simple. And the choice is yours, obviously. But you're all here because you're looking for something else. Something else. So, with that, I will share with you that this philosophy is nothing new. It is absolutely not new. I am by far not the first or the 600th person to talk about it. Okay, there are a bazillion people in our history that if you research, you will find accurate documentation to verify that people like Alexander Graham Bell, Abraham Lincoln, Plato, Beethoven, Einstein, all of these people, all the great people of our nation, of our time, not even our time, but have applied the principles of the law of attraction. And that's what made them great, because they understood the workings of the universe. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to walk out of here and all of a sudden you're going to be the next Einstein. I mean, that's just, you know, not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to apply it to your life and start slowly and to understand the process so that as you move on, you can grow into bigger and better things. Okay, we all have basics that we can all agree on that we want. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants to be loved, feel love, express love. Everybody wants good health, because without that you've got nothing. I mean, it's that simple. Everybody wants more money. I don't care if you got all the money in the world. You still want more. Okay? You know, there's that whole saying that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. And that's very true. And that's very true because the rich people that are getting rich understand these principles. And the poor people that don't. Okay? And they keep snowballing. And we'll go back to that phrase later on because that's a very important piece of the puzzle. Okay? So as I said, when you put some energy out there, okay, and this giant Xerox machine in the sky duplicates it and sends it back to you. Okay, so if you wake up one morning and you go to get out of bed and you trip on the blanket and you fall on your face and you smash your nose and your nose starts bleeding, okay, that's instantly a bad day, right? But from that point forward, okay, aside from the mishap, then you go down, you go to pour your tea or your coffee, and all of a sudden you spill it all over the counter, and then all of a sudden the kids start screaming, and you know, you go to put your socks on, you got a hole in your sock, and then your car won't start, and it just starts snowballing from there, okay? Everybody's had days like this, everybody. Once you start with a negative action, it's very easy to continue that process, because now all of a sudden you've got this negativity brewing, okay? Why does this always happen to me? And oh God, I can't believe this, and it just keeps getting worse. And your anger is rising, okay? So that energy is going out to the universe, duplicating itself and coming back. So it's going to get higher and higher and higher, okay? And then of course you go to work and you're having an argument with somebody at work, and you know, it just gets into this big mess. But if you wake up and you're in a great mood, and you jump out of bed and you're like, it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day. Well, you know what? All of those little things, you go and spill your coffee, it's like, oh, don't cry up, spill milk, you clean it up, and you keep going. You know, and you've got that positive attitude working for you all day. And even though those same events might take place, you're in a much better space to receive. So you're sending out something great to start with, and then other great things will continue. Okay, so as you project it out, it comes back. Now, when we talk about energy, okay, I know a couple of people in this room have this book, okay? And this was written by Elaine Bartlett, who's a dear friend of mine. And she was actually here at the Nurtured Spirit over the summer, was it? I don't know, but she's coming back up in May. In May she'll be here, at the end of May. Elaine is a very interesting woman. I don't even know that I'd classify her as being human. You know, she's like the most angelic person you've ever met in your entire life. If you've had the privilege of meeting her, you would all agree with me. I mean, she's just an amazing human being. But she wrote this book in 1994. It's called Spiritual Law, a Handbook to a Higher Truth. And basically, it's not a reading book that you would just sit and read, okay? This is my 5th copy of this book, okay, because the other ones got mutilated like some of the other books that you'll see later. But I'm going to pass this book around, okay? And what this book does is it allows the universe, God, Chester, Jehovah, Mother Earth, whoever, whatever, to speak to you, okay? What I want you to do is hold the book in your hands, sit quietly, and then I just want you to open it. And I want you to read what's in front of you. Because that is the message that you need to hear right now. Okay, so start with you and you can just pass it down. All right? So that you all get a grasp, you know, of energy. And what does that mean? And how does it work? Okay? When I met Elaine Bartlett, I remember I was doing environmental energy transformations. And I saw this little ad in the paper for a woman that did feng shui. And at the time I didn't even know how to say feng shui. But there was something about this ad, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what that meant, feng shui. But there was something about that ad that really drew me to it. Like, who is this woman? I really want to know who she is. And I wound up picking up the phone and I said, look, this is who I am, who are you, and what do you do? And she started telling me about feng shui, and it's about, you know, balancing and harmonizing your home and all of this happy stuff. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. You know, I do this, you know, energy transformation stuff, you know, with earth energies and electromagnetic fields, and, you know, like, why don't we have lunch together? And that was the beginning of a very long relationship and a great friendship. But she had a store in Ridgewood, New Jersey, where it was a beautiful boutique. It was like a home boutique, and she had lovely things in it. And she had all these great things, like just normal stuff, and she would tell you where to put it in your house, you know, to enhance your money or enhance your relationships or clean up this or clean up that. And I was like so intrigued by this, and I said, you know, I'm thinking about moving. And she said to me, well, where are you moving to? And I said, I have no idea. And she said, well, what does your house look like? I said, what do you mean, what does my house look like? I don't know, I'm not there yet. And she said, well, don't you know what you want? And I said, well, yeah, I'd like to have 2 bedrooms, I'd like to have a home office, I'd like to have a bathroom, you know, like all these simple things in life. And she said, no, what do you really want? And I had to stop for a second. I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, do you want carpeting? Do you want hardwood floors? Do you want, you know, this kind of light fixture, that kind of... I said, yeah, I don't know. You know, I figured I would just go and see what was available. And she said, why? Elaine's a very simple person. And she said, why? I said, what do you mean why? Like, I was just so blown away by her questioning. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And she said, no. Make a list of what you want. And I was like, why? What difference is it going to make? And she said, tell the universe what you want. That was my first, like, ever conversation of any sort about the law of attraction. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. And I went home and I sat down with a notebook, This is why you girls and boys have notebooks. And I sat there writing down, trying to visualize in my head what my perfect home would look like. And it was hard. It was hard because I don't think I ever allowed myself to really know or really think about what I really wanted. So it took me a few hours, you know, to like visually walk through the house, look at the living room, what does that look like, what does the kitchen look like, what does this look like. So I did the whole exercise and that was it. Put the notebook away, shoved it in the desk, and never looked at it again. Well, a couple weeks later, and I really wasn't searching. I didn't have to move right away. It was just like a fleeting thought in my head that, you know, I'd like to move or whatever. And so I wasn't, you know, on the hunt that I had to go somewhere quickly. And a couple of weeks later, I had picked somebody up who had been horseback riding. And she had all these muddy boots on. And I had reached in my back seat and I grabbed this newspaper and I threw it on the floor so it didn't like mess up my carpets. And, you know, dropped her off. She got out and all of that. And I grabbed the newspaper out of the car and started walking in the house. And I got this like little tinge, you know, like this little like tap on the back of my head saying, don't throw the paper out. I was like, what the heck was that, you know? And, you know, is it insight, is it intuition, is it insanity, who knows, you know? But I got this little message not to throw the paper out. So I'm like, wow, this is really weird. So I went in and of course I tossed out all the muddy stuff. And I thought, what is this? So I, you know, grabbed a cup of coffee, sat down and started thumbing through the paper. Well, lo and behold, in this paper was an ad for an open house in Montclair, New Jersey. Now, I'm a big fan of Montclair. I really like it a lot. And I thought, and I'm looking, and it sounds really nice. And I look at the date, and it was yesterday. The open house was the day before I had got, you know, looked at this paper. I'm like, oh man, that's a bummer. You know, like, the open house is over. But there was a phone number there. So I picked up the phone, and I called the woman, and I said, look, I know your open house was yesterday, but would it be okay if I came to look at it? And she said, oh, absolutely, come on over. So this actually was great because now I was there and I had all the time in the world. I wasn't pressured by real estate agents. I wasn't, you know, I was there by myself with this woman and we could chat. So I pulled up to the house and, you know, the first thing that was really appealing to me was that it was on a side road, but it was on a corner. And on the other side, on the main road, there was like another driveway and another entrance to the house. And I thought, that might be good for an office, like a home office, where the home office is on the main road and then like me and my guests and family and stuff could go in, you know, on the side road, so I wasn't really like living on the main road. So I walked in and I started walking around the house. It was lovely. And I walked into the kitchen. And all of a sudden, I just stood there, transfixed, because in this kitchen there was one brick wall in the kitchen. That was one of the things on my list. And I had never really seen that anywhere, it just sounded cool to me. You know, so I put it on my list. So I'm looking, I'm like, wow, that's really nice. And she said, well, let me show you outside while we're here. So she takes me out the back door. And down 2 steps was this beautiful slate patio. And I thought, oh my God. On my list, I put that I wanted a beautiful slate patio out my back door. And I just stood there, like in shock, like, no way. Like this, because I forgot about my notebook. I just kind of like shoved it in the desk and not to be thought of again. So as this woman's taking me through her house, now I'm reviewing my list in my head. That home had everything that was on my list. Every single thing that was on my list. I was amazed. I was scared. It totally freaked me out. And I left, I'm like, thank you very much, have a nice day. And out the door I go, and I'm driving home saying, I don't believe this, I don't believe this, I don't believe this. Because all of a sudden, it was like there's something outside of me that was not in my little bubble, my little world. You know, you come home, you make dinner, you eat your dinner, you do your thing, you go to bed, you get up, you go to work, and you know, you do very regimented. Human beings are very habitual in nature, and we tend to, you know, once in a while we'll break out and we'll do fun things and different things. And there are a few of us that actually are very adventurous, but for the most part, you know, given the fact that we have to like pay our bills and do things, you know, unless you're independently wealthy, you're pretty much in that grind, no matter what. You know, you can try and break out here and there, but for the most part, most of us have to work for a living and do that kind of thing. So all of a sudden now this was like something outside of what I knew. And it scared me. It absolutely scared me. Like, what does this mean now? What do I do with this information? You know, I knew about energy. I knew about kinesiology and meridian energy transformation and helping people and all of that, but this was beyond that. This was so much bigger, so much greater than the client on the table. So with that, P.S. I never wound up buying the house because I was just scared to death of the whole situation, you know, and it took me some time to really digest, you know, what do I do with this information now, you know, and so I started exploring this because I thought, if this could actually be true, everybody needs to know about it. Everybody. Because if I'm walking around with you know, my head under a rock, so is everybody else. Because nobody else I knew in my lifetime ever told me anything like this. You know, so of course I'm on the phone with Elaine. What does this mean? What do we do? What do you do with that? You know, and she was very gentle about it, as only Elaine can be. And you know, she just started teaching me. A little bit here, a little bit there. You know, and she was busy too, so it wasn't like I could just go and glom her up for 3 weeks and lock her in a closet with me, you know, and learn everything. But as I started to explore this, I started to realize that there's a lot of information out there on this. A lot. So I'm going to share with you a couple of the books. I mean, I brought a whole slew of them. And this is like nothing compared to what's out there. I mean, all you got to do is Google the law of attraction, and you'll be stunned. But back then, we didn't even have the internet, so I had, you know, nothing to go on. But this book here, and I actually put these stickies in here because they all had something that I was actually going to take some good notes on for this, but I don't tend to do that. I have good intentions, but then I wing it every time. This book here, which as you can see is quite mutilated, very loved book. It's called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. This book, it's all about the law of attraction. Okay? This book was written in 1912. Okay? This one, which also has my notes, which we can take out, because I'll let you guys peruse them if you want to. And again, with the energy thing, feel free to just open them up and read what's in front of you. Because you're going to get exactly what you need in the moment you need it. That's how the universe works. But this book, The Science of Getting Rich, and also I have another one here.
I was just a little confused when you discovered this house happened upon however you described this event.
Right. How
come did it translate into a conversion? You ended up buying it, you know?
I chose not to. I mean, we all have free will to do whatever we want to do. You know, the universe will bring you what you want. That doesn't mean you have to take it. So, I mean, I could sit here and say, well, you know, I'd love for someone to grab me a cup of coffee right now. And somebody could, but I could leave it right there and never drink it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I would suggest that you work with things that you do want and that you're ready to receive. Okay? This book is written by Wallace Wattles. I know it's a funny name, right? Wallace Wattles. Who names their kid Wallace Wattles? And this is The Science of Being Great and the Science of Getting Rich. Wallace Wattles wrote these books in 1910. So this information is not new by any stretch of the imagination. You know, there's actually, I wrote down a couple of quotes that I stole from the movie The Secret, which we'll talk about in a moment. And I love this one. It's from Buddha. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. Winston Churchill said, "You create your own universe as you go along." What this power is, I cannot say. All I know is that it exists. And that was by Alexander Graham Bell. And my favorite is, "Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attraction." And that was by Albert Einstein. And I can go on and on and on with these things, but it'll get boring. You simply have to watch The Secret. Has anybody watched The Secret? You've seen it, I know. You've seen it. Have you seen it? You saw it. Okay. The Secret came out, I want to say, what, like 4 years ago? I think it was like 4 years ago, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. I was delighted when this movie came out. I was really, really excited because I had been working with the law of attraction for about 8 or 9 years. And for someone to put it in a visual, I thought, this is phenomenal. You know, this is really, really phenomenal. And this thing took off like a rocket. I mean, when people found out about it, it was all over the place. It was on Oprah. I mean, it was on every talk show imaginable. And basically, it is the principles of the law of attraction. They teach you, it's a documentary style, you know, quite entertaining, I think. You know, they have quantum physicists on here, they have reverends on here, they have philosophers, they have teachers, they have everybody on this thing. And they call it a secret because they talk about how all of these people in our history, all of these great people in our history, achieved these great things by applying these principles. They didn't share it with anybody. They wanted to keep the information to themselves so that they could achieve greater heights. If everybody knew how to do it, they were afraid that they wouldn't be as great. Now, there are plenty of people in today's society that apply these principles, and I'll share those with you in a little bit. But I found with this was like the greatest thing since sliced bread as far as I was concerned when it came out. What I will say about it is that I think it's somewhat incomplete. Because a lot of people watch this, and they get really pumped up, and they get really excited, and then nothing happens. And then they get really discouraged, and then they're like, oh, that doesn't work, you know. And that happens a lot to people. But I think there's some missing pieces in that. Now, Rhonda Byrne, who actually wrote this, wrote a sequel book, over here, called The Power. Okay? And basically, the whole gist of this book is to apply love to everything. I mean, that's the simple, basic truth of this. Is that all of it? I've discovered not. Okay, like I said, I have lived it, I have worked it, I have cried over it, I have screamed, yelled, and kicked my feet, as Deborah can attest, many times. But I will tell you that other people felt the same way. One of which would be a man named Joe Vitale. Now, Joe Vitale is actually in The Secret. He's one of the people they interviewed for that movie. And he put out The Missing Secret. And he's got his own little philosophy as to what the key to unlocking the law of attraction is. Well, I tried that too. That didn't work for me either. It may work for you. It might be exactly what you need. I'm going to go through all the different principles, very briefly. Well, we might not be able to go through all the principles, but one of the things that Mary and I had talked about, and up front we have an email list, if you want to sign up for the email list. We're talking about whether people might be interested in doing a weekly support group. So that once you set your goals in motion, once you decide what you're looking for, that we'll meet once a week, just to kind of keep everybody on track, answer your questions, that kind of thing. Whether you come once a week, whether you come once a month, or whatever would be entirely up to you. But if you did put your name on that list, I'd like you to check off on the side if that might be of interest to you to do that, because I'm not going to go through the effort if people aren't interested in doing that. But I think having a support system, or at least even a buddy that you can work with, to say, okay, what have you done today for this, or, why are you slacking on this, to kind of support each other. I mean, Rachel's very much aware of needing a buddy for this and staying on track, because life happens. Life happens, we get distracted, we get angry, we get frustrated, and we forget that there is another way to go about this, okay? So a lot of people are trying to unlock the secret because they know that it works. And again, I will say it will work if you work it. Now what happens when you send something out into the universe that you want? And I don't care whether it's money, I don't care if it's a job, I don't care if it's a leaf blower, I don't care if it's a car, a kitchen dinette set. It doesn't matter what it is that you want. The universe is more than happy to give it to you. It's like the genie in the lamp. Okay, it's Aladdin. Ask and you shall receive. That's simply how it goes. And I know it sounds crazy, I know. But I'm here to tell you that I have attracted more things in my life than I could probably spend the entire evening and all the way into tomorrow sharing different stories with you. Okay? Because it does work. It absolutely works. Now what happens is, once you put it out there, you have to let it go. You have to let it go. It's like one of those rotisserie chicken ovens, set it and forget it. That's really what you got to do. You can put it out there, okay, but you can't be attached to it. You can get anything you want as long as you don't need it. Okay? So, let's start with this. The idea is that you decide what you want. Okay? That's not a good marker. You decide what you want. Okay? So, let's take your dinette set. Okay? Rachel wants a new dinette set. I want a new kitchen table, we'll call it. Kitchen table. Alright? Now, by stating it this way and putting it out there, what happens is the universe takes this information, okay, we'll even go so far as to say, I want money. Okay? It takes this information and it duplicates it. It's the copy machine, remember? Let's not forget. It's the copy machine. So what you're sending out is, I want a new kitchen table. I want money. What's it going to do? It's going to photocopy that and say, I want money. I want money. I want money. I want money. You never get the money because you always want the money.